you, we're going to do a new book study. Every single day, we're going to read a chapter and we're going to learn together how to build our emotional and our spiritual health so that then we can build our true physical health and have more energy and just feel better so that we can live the lives that God has created us to live. And so we're going to start with a very powerful book. And I would love you guys to go out and get this book so that you can read along with me in the morning. And of course, you can be doing your circadian rhythm exercise while you're reading the book with me as well, getting that sunlight in the morning. Maybe if you're getting a little heat like I am today, you're actually getting a little bit of a sweat on after you get done exercising and you're keeping that sweat going, which is so good for your detoxification. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you this book and also show you how pretty it is here where I get to live on this goat farm in the middle of nowhere, San Diego. And here is the book. It's called Revolution Within by Pastor Dwight Edwards. And the foreword is by Dr. Larry Crabb. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the first foreword today by Larry Crabb because it is so powerful. You're going to want to stick around for this book study. And you can find this book on Amazon. And I'm telling you, 35 years as a Christian, and my pastor gave me this book at a time when I needed it the most. And I'm telling you, it absolutely changed my life. And so let's read it together. Okay. I'm just going to keep the camera focused on the beautiful scenery for you. You don't need to see me. The scenery is much prettier. Okay. All right. Revolution Within. This is the foreword by Dr. Larry Crabb. Let your heart dream. Is it really possible that before Christ returns, his spirit may once again move in revival power? Might there be another great awakening that stirs the church to first tremble before God and then pant after him? It would take deep brokenness, something that we've trivialized into merely facing the wounds from our past. And it would require repentance, which to many modern people means little more than admitting we need help and going for some counseling. If we faced how shallow and powerless our lives have actually become, how self-absorbed and ruled by a spirit of entitlement we actually are, perhaps we would be transformed from a community of the comfortable, or at least trying to be comfortable, into the community of the broken. And if that happened, maybe the Spirit would continue his work by turning us into a community of hope. Men and women praying fervently for another time of refreshing from the Lord. Our weighty God is right now sitting lightly on his church. To the watching world, he must seem more like a shiny veneer decorating our lives than our sure foundation. Let me read that again. To the watching world, God must seem more like shiny veneer decorating our lives rather than our sure foundation. Good things, of course, are happening in the world. The Spirit is faithfully building Christ's church. But as one pastor recently put it to me, something is missing. I see obvious blessing, and I know it's God's hand. But sometimes I envision what the Spirit must long to do in God's people. And I wonder if anything real is happening at all. I know it is, but there could be so much more. I wonder if any of us look at Christ and in the middle of terrible trial, be able to say, He is enough, and mean it. Or watch cherished dreams shatter, and with renewed vigor, pursue the greater dream of knowing Him better, and do so with gratitude for the privilege. Do any of us know what it is to suffer betrayal and rejection, and then count it all joy? Not only that we're deemed worthy to suffer for the name of Christ, but also that now we have unique opportunity to reveal what Christ is like to our abusers. Do we value knowing God and glorifying Him, no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what's happening in our lives? Do we value this more than depending on God and using Him to make our lives more fulfilling? I worry that we've twisted the message of the cross into a promise that God will provide us enough creature comforts on earth, whether material or spiritual, to keep the journey to heaven reasonably pleasant until we get there. We think it's God's job to see to it that we feel pretty good here until we feel forever good there. Modern Christianity, in dramatic reversal of its biblical form, is now all about us. Ouch. I don't know how that hits you guys. But I'm telling you, when I first opened this book, I literally sat here and bawled. I bawled in repentance. And I thanked the Lord that He was opening my eyes and allowing me to be broken so that I could actually get that and I could actually live in His full power. All right, let's go on. Larry Crabb says, God hasn't checked with me on this, nor on anything else, but I sense that He may be setting the stage for another reformation that, coupled with true revival, could spark a revolution in the church and amongst His people, amongst His children who don't even know Him. The first Reformation recovered with liberating clarity the truth of how we are made right with God, how we receive God's life and the guarantee of enjoying it forever. That's coming to Christ, right? I suggest that the Reformation needed in the church today and needed in the world today would focus on why God gives us life, on the real reason that Jesus died. It is not for your sake that I am going to do these things, God said, but for the sake of my holy name. The Spirit would cut through our narcissistic nuttiness to make clear that God saved us in order for Him to receive the glory, not to help us feel good about ourselves and lead exciting lives. We would see that Christ's blood was shed so that as forgiven disciples, we might trust God when life falls apart, rather than expecting Him to keep it together. Light would dispel the fog that prevents us from seeing anything beyond our own longings, and we would realize that life, our relationships, our health, our bank accounts, our time, is not all about us. It's all about God. He is the star of the show. We would see that we're bit players and we'd be thrilled to be part of the drama. No suffering would be viewed as unfair for us to endure if it helped to keep the spotlight on Jesus Christ. That would be a true turnabout, a reformation in our understanding of what God is up to in the gospel. Revival would follow. The Spirit would convince us that under the terms of God's new arrangement with his people, the new covenant brought in the Pentecost that replaced the old one begun at Sinai, God has done more than we think, way more than we think. We've not only been forgiven so completely that the Father now sings over us with delight at every moment from conversion on, but he has also changed us deeply, profoundly, and permanently. Under the new arrangement, we're not merely ordered to glorify God, we now want to. And we're equipped to do it. It becomes actually possible. We see it as our highest privilege and our highest joy to revolve our lives around God. Wow. We discover an appetite within us that prefers the pleasures of holiness to the pleasures of sin. Along with Augustine, we experience the joy of knowing God's love as greater than the very real fun of sexual release. And so we overcome our addictions and express our sexuality within moral boundaries. And for those of you who don't know, Saint Augustine was a horrible womanizer before he came to Christ. We experience the pleasure of God's company and the privilege of being in his service as far surpassing all lesser let me try that again. We experience the pleasure of his company and the privilege of being in his service as far surpassing all lesser pleasures and privileges. And so we mature. We become more like Christ. We lead changed, though still imperfect, lives that reveal a new power in our makeup that puzzles people who watch. We were saved to glorify God. Realizing that one truth is the heart of the Reformation that the modern church must experience. And our salvation provides us with all the resources we need to pull it off. That realization and learning how to draw on those resources will begin the revival. Our lives can actually be all about God and not about us. That is the coming revolution. Think about it. Let your heart dream. From narcissists to worshipers. From people trying hard to make our lives more pleasing to us, to people who make it our priority to please God. Men would turn off their cable pornography. Lonely women would no more longer date still married men. People with limited means would be glad when their friends become rich. Children would spend time with their aging parents and count it a privilege to do so. We'd stop being so damnably selfish and actually be more concerned for others than for ourselves, even when the price is high to do so. We'd stop. The church would shift from a fractious society of ego-driven competitors whose souls rarely meet to a gathering of broken, grateful saints ruled by the passion of grace. We'd become a true community, a true loving community. If the Spirit reforms our understanding of why God bothered to save us in the first place, if he revives our passion to live sacrificially for him without focusing on our own immediate sense of well-being, a revolution will be set in motion. And I got to tell you, a revolution in my own heart has been set into motion the last few months. And it was exactly what I've been praying for from the Lord for a couple of years now. I've been crying out to him. I've been saying, I know there's more. I know there's more. And this is it, you guys. So I'm going to read on. The church will be on its way to again being the church. Never perfectly, of course, but perhaps as substantially as in the days of Acts. Wouldn't that be awesome to see? Yeah, we can make it happen. The Lord's calling us to make it happen. The book you're about to read could trigger that revolution. Revolution Within, written by my close friend and colleague Dwight Edwards, is well titled. With the passion of a man, oops, the wind is blowing my page. Start that again. With the passion of a man on a mission from God, and with the power of a writer who listens to the Spirit as his fingers move across the keyboard, Dwight, in this book, lays the foundation for both Reformation and revival. The Reformation and revival the modern church desperately needs today. I remember when he first called me from his home in Texas to say, Larry, something just hit me. God introduced the new covenant to pull his name out of the mud. I've read it before in Ezekiel. It's as plain as day, but now I really see it. The gospel is all about God's glory. It's not about my fulfillment. But living in his glory guarantees my fulfillment. And he was nearly shouting at me. Another call a few months later, Dwight said, I'm realizing that the gospel actually changes who we are, not just our legal position before God, not just the fact that we're saved. The pressure is completely off. Now I can glorify God by releasing who I really am. Larry, I have missed the thrill of new covenant living. It's far better than most of us have ever imagined. I thought my job as a pastor was to persuade people to do what they really didn't want to do in the first place and to act like people they really weren't. But my calling is to tell them that what God has done. But my calling is to tell them what God has already done and to stir up their holy appetites, provide some basic direction, and then turn them loose. So read this book. Give a copy to your friends. It's all about theology, but you'll think it's an exciting story. Of course, that's what theology is. It's the exciting story of God, who he is and what he is doing, especially within each and every one of us. Don't just read it, though. Open your heart to the Spirit as you slowly turn its pages. This book has the power to jumpstart the revolution you've longed for in yourself, in your small group, in your church, and in your community. As never before, you may experience supernatural living, a life that's all about God and a freedom to live out who you really are. And that's a lover of God. The revolution within has already happened. This book will make that clear. After digesting its message, you'll want to make the revolution visible to everyone around you. Wow. So that was the intro of The Revolution Within by Dr. Larry Crabb. And again, I just have to say, we're gonna devour this book together. Every morning I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna read another chapter to you. And together we're gonna peer deep into our hearts. We're gonna learn together how to be good and faithful servants of the Lord, how to allow the Lord to absolutely change our hearts from within and actually live the lives that he created us for in full confidence, in full strength, in empowerment, in confidence, in everything that we need. And I thank you for being here with me. Please share this message, like and share and subscribe, and let's all learn together. I promise I'm going to be out here with you every day, and I'll see you tomorrow. All righty, bye-bye.